Hey, everybody, and welcome to biology. So, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to understand what you'll learn in biology and how this class will run. So, first, let's just know what biology is. And by definition, this is a branch of science that deals with the study of living organisms. So, we're going to be looking at basically microscopic, so as small as we can get, to macroscopic, and how living things like what they're made up of, how they change due to certain adaptations or conditions that are changed around them. So you'll see a lot of that. We have four overarching concepts here that all of our individual lessons will fit into. And we have structure and function of living organisms, ecosystems, evolution and genetics, and molecular biology. So we're going to fit all of our lessons into one of these four major categories. We'll have different types of assignments in this class than you may be used to. A lot of them are similar to what you're used to in a regular class, but we'll have some different ones here. So you're going to have a lesson video and guided notes page. You'll have that for every single lesson. You'll have group activities for each lesson. These could be mandatory or optional. It really just depends on how the class is running. If I'm getting good effort, grades are getting turned in, things like that. You'll have a mastery check for each lesson as well. You'll have review activities before the test. You'll have an interactive notebook, which will be on paper, so make sure you get your 5-subject notebook. You'll have unit vocab quizzes. You'll have labs, and you'll have tests for each unit, or almost each unit, and a project for almost each unit. So now let's talk a little bit about these interactive notebooks. So these will be, like I said, on paper, and this will be where you'll house your notes and your group activities. So you're going to glue or tape in these papers into your notebook so that at the end of the semester you have like a cumulative notebook, one that holds everything in it that you've done in the whole semester except your mastery checks. Those will stay with me. This is a project grade for every unit. So for those of you that maybe struggle with taking tests, this is something I try to do to help alleviate that, because a project and a test counts the same. So if you aren't very good at taking tests, but you are good at being organized and getting work done, then hopefully your project grade can kind of balance that out. If you only do the must-dos to mastery, so if you only complete the notes and you do your mastery checks to mastery, then you'll get an 80 for honors or a 70 for standard. If you do all the must-dos and you get your should-dos completed, so all of your group activities, all of your labs, things like that, that's a 90 for honors and an 85 for standard. And then if you do both of those as well as your review activity and or your formal lab report, that's 100 in your interactive notebook. This is an all or nothing grade. So if you complete all of your must-dos, but you don't do all of your should-dos, you do some of them, but not all of them, your best grade will be an 80 or a 70. I'm not going to give partial credit for the should-dos you do get done. It's either you do all of them or I don't count any of them. So now let's talk a little bit about labs. So you will work in groups of 2 to 4. And these will be either guided, where I provide a procedure for you, or inquiry, where you actually have a question and you come up with a procedure. I'm planning on doing a lot of these because I want you guys to have some creativity in the lab, but I also want you to get some experience on what a higher level science class will be like. You should have multiple labs per unit. And you may have some formal lab reports. So these tend to be project grades, depending, again, on your effort, how well you're working, how much you're getting done, how your grades are. These could be either optional or mandatory. And always remember safety first. Please make sure you dress appropriately. You follow all of the lab rules. If you don't, I will easily take these labs away. So let's talk about the basic outline for a unit in my class. The first day of a unit, which I will say actually tends to start on the test day of the previous unit. So you'll finish your test and then we'll start this next part. It's called Science Your Way. This is where I will give you a question and you will do an inquiry-based lab. So you will actually come up with a procedure and then we're going to test your procedure. So this tends to take 2 days. And you can also start your unit vocab. So if you're waiting on other people to get finished before we can start the Your Way lab, you can be working on your vocab for the next unit. Then each day following Science Your Way, you're going to have a unit lesson. This number of days will vary based on how many lessons are in each unit. I do try to make a pace for one lesson per day because I know that sometimes they might be a little bit more in depth. You might need a little bit more time. But to be able to fit in all these inquiry labs, we've got to smush some of these lessons. So just kind of be prepared for that. And this is also made that you can finish more than one lesson in one day if you feel like you can get those things done. So you'll always have a note and a note paper and a video, a group activity, and a mastery check. And once you finish that mastery check, you go ahead and move on to the next lesson. If you still have 30 minutes in class, go ahead, watch the next video, work on that group activity, see how far you can get. Because I might not have the mastery checks graded by the time you leave. So don't wait on me to grade it. Move on to the next thing. You'll have a review day. This is really just a catch-up day on whatever you need to finish, or doing your review activity to prepare for the test. And then you have your test day. So grading, this is on your syllabus, but I just want to make sure I hit these points again. So all assignments for a unit will be due at the beginning of the test day for full credit. So you have to turn it into me before you start your test. If it comes to me after, it might be a late grade, or I might not even take it. So make sure you get it to me first thing before you start taking your test. On your grading scale, our dailies are our mastery checks. Those are 20%. Minors, which are quizzes and labs, are 30%. And majors, which are tests and projects, are 50%. For late credit, it does not matter how late it is. If you turn it in to me 2 minutes late, you turn it in to me 2 months late. I don't care. Once it's late, the highest grade you could receive is either an 80 for honors or 70 for standard. That means you'd have to make 100 on it to get that 70 or 80. The only assignments that I will accept late credit on, so I will not accept it often, but the only ones I will are second attempt mastery checks, which means you took the first one on time. You just didn't have time to take the second one. I will take one of those for late grade. Quizzes and labs. So those are the only ones I'll take for late credit. And then the items you need for class, just make sure you have pencils, blue or black ink pens for lab, colored pencils, a college ruled bound notebook. This is your lab notebook, and a 5-subject notebook for your interactive notebook. Make sure you always have your Chromebook charged and ready to go because you're going to use it very often, and a good attitude, because if you come in here complaining every day, you're not going to